Hi, everybody, and good evening from Finland. It's about 11 o'clock here at night, but I imagine you have the benefit of some other times, either early in the morning or in the afternoon. This is our blue moon in the sign Gemini, and you know how that occurs. It's not that the two full moons occur in the same month. Sometimes they do, and people call that a blue moon, but for esoteric purposes, that's not how we are considering to be the blue moon. The blue moon will occur when there's a full moon in the very early degrees, like 0 or 1 degree of a sign, and then another full moon towards the very end of the sign, let's say, as in this case, 29 degrees. So if you really think about it, I mean, here is the Festival of the Christ, that particular type of second ray energy, very available to us at this time, and in a particular mode. I was thinking about this. What is it about that critical degree, that very last degree of a particular sign? And I would say that the critical degree, the last degree of a sign, is all about the factor of synthesis. It is a summary, an inclusive look, an inclusive ingathering of the nature of the entire sign. So, you know, this is a profound sign. It has so much to do with the way the human being took individualization, or became, more than animal man. And now it's a sign that is, because the Earth is the hierarchical ruler of Gemini, it's a sign which is supervising, in a way, the movement of those members of the human race who are ready for it, the movement into the fifth kingdom of nature. See, there's always a duality going on here in Gemini. In our particular case, it is the solar angel and its influence upon the egoic lotus, which is our intermediary home, and of course the ordinary personal human being. It's Pollux and Castor, with Pollux, the supergiant star, representing the soul or the higher self, and Castor, or even the monad for that matter. And Castor is representing the personality. And it's interesting, Castor is not a single star, it's 6 stars, and 3 of them are binaries. I mean, in other words, it's 3 binary systems. So it kind of reminds you of the 6 planes of our cosmic physical plane, and the true home of the monad, or of the liberated monad, which is on the logoic level. In other words, when finally we're liberated into the state of being, into the state of pure fire, into the state of the liberated volatile essence, our home will be, temporarily at least, upon the logoic plane, and there will be 6 planes below us, and they'll be, in a sense, in 3 pairs. There'll be monad atma, there will be buddhi manas, and there will be the astral physical pair. Now, this is such a profound sign. It's called the head of the cosmic Christ. It has a huge second ray connected with it, and if you've looked into the sky, you see it's of the shape of an oblong square, a rectangle, and from the proportions of that rectangle, all comparison, all beauty, all music arises. The rational approach to life, based upon ratios, and these ratios give us the musical notes of the scale. It's a great sign of communication, and of course, there are so many ways in which we can receive the astral reflection of the kinds of communication we should be making. Our first really higher subjective communication is with with the presence of the soul, the angel of the presence on the higher mental plane, and then I suppose eventually with the solar angel in full itself. And via the Antakarana, which Gemini rules, it's going to be communication with the threefold reflection of the monad that we call the spiritual triad, and we're really going to find our higher life there, and eventually we're going to find as well, I guess that was my daughter calling. Anyway, we're going to find as well, whoop, she's very persistent. I imagine she's flashing on the screen there, but maybe she'll know why if she thinks of the full moon that I can't speak right at the moment. Anyway, it eventually gives us communication with the monad. And the monad is truly our higher self. So when we say, I recognize my higher self, and in the waning of that self I grow and glow, we're not only talking about our soul nature, that's just the first step. And that involves Venus as the uniter of soul and personality. But eventually, we're going to look at that great monadic planet Jupiter that rules the monadic plane and has a special strength in the sign Gemini. And we're going to realize that that's the way of uniting the spirit with the soul-infused personality. Now, I think probably we're doing well if we identify as the soul on the higher mental plane. I'm not sure that that's so easy to do. If we could do that at will and sustain that identification, we would be initiates of the third degree. But the time will come when we have to identify within the spiritual triad itself, and then eventually identify within the monadic vehicle, and we can always say, from whatever elevation we find ourselves, I recognize my higher self. Not my higher, that'd be good too. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. This is not quite the correct mantra. It says, I see my other self. I use that for a song that I wrote. It was easier to sing I see than to sing I recognize. Okay, and there's a big difference between seeing and recognizing, because you're recognizing when you recognize. You are seeing something that you once knew about, and you're seeing it again. And then this flash of recognition occurs, and it turns out that the apparently unfamiliar is deeply familiar to you as an inner being. I'm improvising a little more here tonight because this is the blue moon, and I'm not going through the regular form, excuse me, the way I usually do. This is a illustration by Francis Donald, and you see that the center of recognition is remote. And here's this whole river of eyes. Well, you can call it a river of I in the sense of the identity, or a river of two eyes. There is this ability to always stand back, to detach. It's a pratyahara, it's called. And the smaller our personality gets, and in our own field of vision, and even the smaller that our soul-infused personality gets, the more we're retreating towards our real identity, which is the immortal spirit. So we need to take a stand upon a certain ever higher plane of identification, all the time finding a new point of view, which is a new self, in a way. Leibniz, when he was writing about the monad, says it's a point of view, and this point of view can go higher and higher, more and more intense, at an ever higher point of tension. We have to ask, where is our point of view focused? Are we deeply immersed within the personality, or have we learned how to abstract ourselves and find our point of identity on ever higher planes? And this is the opportunity that Gemini really gives us. We have also here, well, you know, the Jafra drawings give us, of course, the dualities of the sun and moon, and basically here on this planet Earth, we are becoming the divine Hermes Aphrodite. We're becoming the divine hermaphrodite in a spiritual sense. We're learning how to unite the pairs of opposites. And when we are graduates of Earth School, you know, and may that day be not too distant from this time, we are called adjudicators between the pairs of opposites. And we will know that even though we see the other self, and even though it is something in a way very different from how we sense ourselves to be, that somehow we have to re-embrace that other self and realize that we can unify the dualities, and really there's nothing but the one remaining. So we go from a stark sense of difference and duality into a unified sense of duality, you know, where they are harmoniously related and are sort of parts of each other, into the state of identification. And Christ is a master of this, you know, master of the state of identification, where the subject and object really become one thing. And then we're able to stand truly in our spirit. I don't know if you can ever objectify the spirit per se. It's always the observer. And when you think of yourself as the observer, who are you really? Well, you know, at first you're kind of the soul in incarnation. You're stepping back and you're seeing your vehicles. But then you find yourself on a still higher plane and in the world of light, love, and power, and you recognize that your higher identity is what we call a soul, and the personality is kind of a remote instrument or object for your use. But it doesn't stop there. You keep on withdrawing into reality and find yourself as pure spirit. Well, you know, everything you see becomes spirit. Everything you be becomes spirit. And all of this is from the practice of recognizing our other self and growing and glowing in the realization that that objectivity that we thought we were is not really who we are at all, that we are in fact the formless, immortal spirit who gives shape and form to all things. So there are deep mysteries of identity found in this sign. It's, you know, it's not the way ordinary astrology depicts it. You know, you're unstable, you're moving from here to there, you're learning this and that, you know, you're full of perception and all the rest. That's on a rather lower level. The higher level is all about reconciling the great dualities of spirit and matter. And one day we all have to do that, you know. We are spirit, we are matter, they're both the same thing. And first we have to separate them, and then we have to unite them, and then we have to absolutely make them the same. It sounds almost like an alchemical formula when you think of it. I think Francis has that beautiful picture again that maybe we could take a look at here, you know. There's that other self holding up the image of the Trinity, and there is the higher self in a way with its pentagram all over that robe, activating the spiritual organs within the head of man. This is really a sign, Gemini, in which you can unite the head and the heart. And that's what we really have to do as esotericists. We need to be members of the Society of Organized and Illumined Minds. That's one thing that the Tibetan Buddhists call the Master of Wisdom. That's what DK says, the Society of Organized and Illumined Minds. And we have to be eventually the hearts of fiery love at the same time. So mind and heart can be united here, and especially this is a function of both planets strongly associated with Gemini. First, Venus, the union of heart and mind, and Mercury will give the interrelation, but Jupiter will really unite the monadic plane and the Buddhic plane and the plane of soul and the astral plane. Jupiter is a great power in this sign, even though it's not considered to be one of the rulers. Well, okay, those are some thoughts about how we can treat this. We have a higher part of our nature which is communicating with the lower part, ideally, and we want to receive those streams of energy which are truly from the higher worlds. We don't want to just get caught in the delusive, myopic area of the personality where the 1,001 voices of the astral plane are speaking to us and masquerading as something that they are not. We don't want the concrete mind with all of its plethora of thoughts to overwhelm us with an insignificant cloud of variety. We want the real thing. We want the solar angel to be speaking to us in whatever language it speaks, language of symbols, of sound, of music, of image, whatever that language may be. And we want our own higher nature, the Atma Buddhi Manas, to speak to us. And if we're going to do that, then we really have to build the Antakarana. Now that that Antakarana, it just keeps going and going and going, eventually all the way to the pyramidal top of the universe, if you conceive the universe as a great pyramid. But in the human stage, it kind of ends in a way, in a very significant way, in mastership, when Mercury and the Sun become one. That's the end of one phase of the Antakarana. But of course, it keeps going to the monad and beyond, so that we can tread eventually the way of higher evolution. And who is it that's treading it? It's not going to be us as personalities, is it? We're going to tread that way which leads to the next reconcilable duality as monads. We are traveling as units, emanated units of spirit on the way to higher and higher worlds. But first, let's get the wisdom, the pillars of wisdom, anchored right down here so we can redeem the matter that's left over from the previous solar system and go into our true cosmic etheric nature. That's where the masters live right now, in the cosmic etheric worlds, and Gemini will help take us there. All right, well, one could go on and on about these things. It's such a magnificent sign. And tomorrow I suspect that when Tuya is doing the full moon, the exact full moon service meditation, we'll probably hear something about the labors of Hercules, where he has, very interestingly, 5 labors to complete. And they are very interesting labors. So let's, I'm improvising tonight, friends. Now, that happens once in a blue moon, right? Okay, so I give myself a little permission to improvise, and we'll be trying to receive impression from the higher worlds in this particular meditation. In a way, we always do, but it's very important at this Gemini blue moon to receive some synthetic impression about our life, about our purpose, about all the things we've done and what they all mean in one picture together, utilizing that synthetic idea that will give us a holistic picture of everything we've been doing and all that we have to do in line with purpose. So, okay, I think we can begin our meditation. And as I say, I'm not going to read this thing rigorously, but it's going to be a little more improvised. So here we all are, apparently spread around the world. But via Mercury and via the great second ray of Gemini, we are in a state of related unity in the soul. So you want to get the feeling of that. And it involves the heart and the ajna center, and involves the heart center at the top of the head. It involves all those things, ways of reaching out towards each other. Until we feel that oneness, or at least that harmony between us, as if we're all parts of one thing. In a way, it's the group soul. Soul is group conscious. And in this state of soul, we're touching, as it were, the members of the new group of world servers, those points of brighter light amidst the many, many points of dimmer light that ordinary humanity represents. We're touching the men and women of goodwill in the state of soul, and we get the sense of being linked up with everybody. We're related. We're related through the energy of love, and ultimately we find ourselves as the Christ found and relayed to us. We find thou and me and thee, a certain identicality. And the heart center reveals that. It's not only a unity, it's a oneness. Dawning ever more impressively as the veils are lifted from our consciousness, until we can look at all of humanity in the soul state, whether in incarnation or out of incarnation, and we can say that great second ray mantram, naught is but me. There is no my soul, thy soul. Naught is but me. And it's going to give that expansive sense when one begins to realize it. It's very Jupiterian, it's very inclusive. It's the mutable cross, really, the combination of Mercury relating everything to everything else, and then Jupiter making a wholeness out of it. All interrelated and all one thing. And every day, a little bit of time anyway, no matter what we're working on meditatively, should be given to the realization of this essentially inescapable unity. Really, you're carrying the whole human race with you wherever you go. Touch one, touch all. And space, as we normally conceive it, is an illusion, and separate identity, though practical in our evolutionary process, is also essentially an illusion. In thinking about then the Antakarana, we're gathered together at a point of tension on the mental plane, like a point of bright light in the group personality upon the fourth subplane of the mental plane. We draw up all the personality resources into that point of tension, in tension on the mental plane. And from that point we visualize the dual-colored bridge, the color of our soul ray, the color of our personality ray, however you want to visualize that. Reaching, as it were, upward with all the many bridges of the group. And entering the realm of the spiritual triad, that point of planetary mental realization, planetary love and harmony, planetary will, something greater than our personal self. That we are touching via our own rainbow bridge and via the group rainbow bridge, that cone of all the colors rising towards the point of spirit, the one monad. That sense of beingness that we all share simply because we are. Before any quality comes the fact of isness. It just is, and that's the first thing. And that's what's at the heart of the monad. The fact, I assert the fact of isness. So it's now as if we could use the group Antakarana. We will send forth a projection using the second ray word of power, I see the greatest light. Everybody use that. It's a kind of indigo coloring to the whole bridge. And we will send forth the beam of light reaching through the triad and into the point of being. So we'll sound the Om 3 times and think then with power and with penetration and with realization, think, I see the greatest light, as outwardly you sound the Om. What is this greatest light? Well, from the monadic perspective, it's the unfettered enlightenment of Shambhala. It's the light of planetary omniscience. But down at our level, and transformed as it descends, it is the highest light we can touch, revealing higher worlds and revealing, importantly, the presence of the higher worlds in our everyday personal world. But there we are, imaginatively penetrating into this triadal realm from which a planetary perspective begins to be available to us. And we will sound an Om of solidarity with the great intelligences, hearts, wills, which focus in this world, namely the spiritual hierarchy of our planet, Christ and his hierarchy. So our Om is an expression of solidarity with these great lights. Remember, in Shambhala, the lights which carry out the will of God. As a group, we express our solidarity on the Om. And inwardly, a long, silent Om to express our intended receptivity as a group, to the center where the will of God is known, the divine purpose, long, inward, silent Om. So may our lives truly be imbued with not our will, so often prompted by personality desires and intentions, but the higher will and the higher purpose. May our lives as a group and in our individual lives be imbued, be driven, be illumined by this purpose, however it can work out in our local field of service. As we retain this contact with the inner worlds, we realize that the mind of Master DK that understands so much about these energies supports our quest for contact here. Mercury fills the air, literally the Buddhic plane, but also the mind. Mercury assists us in relating the higher and the lower with intelligence. And Venus, you can visualize the symbol, but this is a great planet of solar systemic accomplishment, so rapid in its development, just as the Christ, kind of a reflection of Venus, has been incredibly rapid in his development. Venus, feel the power of it, drawing magnetically and in illumined love, your higher solar self together with your personal lunar nature. You don't have to be just a personal being. That solar radiation can infuse what you normally consider to be your everyday self. Venus bringing in the power of the solar angel, substanding all that you are, the heart of the solar angel and the mind of man. Venus, making of us really the soul-infused personality. We should carry Venus with us all the time in this Gemini period, the esoteric ruler, the fusing, merging magnetic power. Because we don't want to be two, we want to be one. The soul-infused personality. But there's always a higher one which makes two and then has to be drawn into oneness. Mercury will reach out and find another elevated point of tension between which and our normal self it carries the energy with speed and light. And I want to say that that's going to be Jupiter now, the great second ray planet and the great second ray sign, and the planet representing the heart center of the disciple, and to a great extent the monadic plane and the heart and the head center. So Jupiter and Gemini, Jupiter now. Jupiter, the great inclusive planet, fusing what we are as a monad triad in the impersonal planetary spheres with the personal part of ourself and even the transpersonal soul built up of all the experiences we've had as a personality. Jupiter brings the two together, spirit and soul, or spirit and soul-infused personality. You start to realize what it's like to be a planetary being, planetary life. Not yet, of course, but just a touch of realization. Of what it's like to be a unit of spirit, a monad, walking the earth. course, the sun, representing so many different parts of ourselves, but certainly representing the spirit, the star within us. We're all monadically units of love wisdom, no matter what our other rays may be. The sun absorbs it all, the solar logos. There's always another self to be recognized from below, and there's always another self to be recognized from above. And as we rise, we unify these various selves always into one. And then the great constellation itself, the two brothers, the Castor and the Pollux, the oblong square, the Redeemer of our planet, through which the angels came and raised the animal up into human life. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. So don't hold on to any little self that you thought you were. It's always an object. It's always an other self. The further you pull back into the fire of spirit, the more all those vehicles, all those instruments just become other. Not the real self, the immortal being, the immortal, invisible spirit. I recognize my other selves, even. And in the waning of those things that I thought I was, I, sun-like, grow and glow. There's always a self more remote, which sees all the former apparent selves as an object. The subject is forever, and the object is the subject seeing itself. So first separate and recognize the object. whatever, whoever. But then realize that no object is other than the self or the spirit which seems to be seeing it. It's the unification of subject and object. It wanes so much in its own objectivity that when it reaches the vanishing point, it becomes the seer, who is you, the observer. So it's not just your personality. It's anything you see as your other self, and it will wane to the vanishing point until it becomes the one who sees, the one who observes. And all that's left is the one. That's what it says about Gemini in Esoteric Astrology, page 332, the service of the one serving the one. So what does this oneness, this higher unity, want to say to you when you consider yourself to be just the human being? Or what do you, as that higher being, want to say to your other self? What's the message? Not a personal message, but a message that has to do with the divine plan. What's the message to you? What's the message you're giving, you the observer, you the spirit, the message that you're giving to your other self, your instrument? What's the message? This message maybe will carry something of the note of synthesis, which comes at the blue moon in the critical degree of the sign. Shrink the object down to the vanishing point, which has no dimension, spatial or temporal, and re-becomes yourself, the one abiding self-observer. And even the entire universe can be shrunken, can be collapsed to that vanishing point, the ultimate infinitesimal, which has no choice but to re-become the one who observed it into existence. And thus indeed you grow and glow until out of two you have made one. Then all loneliness is at an end, all separation is at an end, all fretting about one's personality and what one has achieved or not achieved, and the fear of failure and all the many things that beset aspirants and disciples, these things will fade away in the immortality of what you are. And being freer now of all those things which held the consciousness in bondage, that immersion into objectivity which is a kind of slavery, being freer of that, not yet entirely free of course, but freer of that, we're in a position to help through radiation. Radiation of love, of light, the radiation of that can-do attitude which lifts people up and which is based on the presence of will, because the will can do anything, literally anything. So when we look at the world in terms of service, that energy flow from the Pleiades through Gemini into our local cosmic logos where our sun is a heart center, into the solar logos and through Mercury and Venus, I will include Jupiter, and then, of course, the Earth, where it all has to happen as we are on our way to becoming a sacred planet, which Gemini will help us with. We can serve via that stream. We can help link everybody up in the state of soul. We can see the harmony of the many parts. We can be truly related, unified. And for those who can go far enough and lift enough veils, we can also become the one, re-become it in full consciousness. So send forth your radiation into some place on the earth that really needs the principle of loving relationship. maybe through all the 5 planetary centers that influence everybody, all human beings on the planet, New York, London, Geneva, Tokyo, Darjeeling. The principle of loving relationship, illumined loving relationship that allows us to reconstruct, under the forces of reconstruction, reconstruct our civilizations, our relationships, the various kingdoms of nature, a great reconstruction under these energies. And we can't forget that at this time, you know, the Great Invocation is very important. World Invocation Day was celebrated at the first full moon, but we carry that with us. This tremendous word of power that was released when the Christ decided he would appear in physical presence during the age of Aquarius. Just recite that to yourself many times today and towards the full moon, which is occurring at 11:02 and 15 seconds tomorrow, GMT, Universal Time. We're part of a great reconstructing, healing effort, helping to transform the pattern of squares of our planetary etheric body into the pattern of triangles. Activate your triangles at this time. And feel the lighted relationship of all beings. Just hold that in mind. As a great energy reality. And seeing our planet pervaded by divine light, divine love, divine will, sacrificial will, divine purpose, maintaining our antichironic alignment with the higher impersonal spheres, at least as if, and with the sense of being that we all share, we will close this rather improvised meditation with the sounding of the Great Invocation in this reflection of World Invocation Day. Remember, tomorrow we have the actual full moon, and in the chat box we've given you our link anyway, so that you can be part of the meditation service broadcast for the exact Blue Moon ASALA festival in Gemini. If you don't have your own things you're going to, you're most welcome to join us. And Tuya will be leading that. So, great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Well, thank you, friends, for attending this pre-blue moon, full moon, ASALA, blue moon meditation. Is stay in touch with what's at the other end of the Antakarana, so to speak, and let the messages come to you which have to do with your role in the divine plan. And what that divine plan may be, as little as we may realize it. Stay in touch, use the Antakarana, use the links, use Gemini energy, and we'll see some of you at least tomorrow. We begin at 9:30 GMT, Universal Time, and then about an hour and a half later, at 11:02 and 15 seconds Universal Time, GMT, we have the ASALA blue moon. So the link is there in the box. Look forward to working with you. Thanks for your presence. Presence is really important. It's an amazing thing. Thanks for your presence, and have wonderful preparation for the blue moon, and wonderful blue moon. It only happens once in a blue moon, so let's get that big synthetic picture. We'll see you now, and take care. Lots of love. Talk to you before long. Bye-bye.